like you, Bill. I miss your mom. I know you're good. He's you. I love my mom and dad and my brothers and sisters.
I know that Christ lives and that he loves me. And I know beyond a
shadow of a doubt that Joseph Smith was a true prophet of God.
I know.
I have a fascination for things that I'm not naturally skilled at.
Oh, that's not me.
Like, I have a fascination with, like, stand-up comedy.
Because you're not funny?
Oh. You can't keep that in. You can't keep that in.
Oh, no,
You're not
I
allowed
can.
to keep that in.
I can.
No.
No, yeah, why not?
Because that's
a sting.
That's too severe a burn.
It's a sting.
I don't have there's not, yeah, that's, that was really good, and I'm not happy about it.
Hello, and welcome to Beyond a Doubt podcast. I am your host, Elena.
And I'm that other guy, Jonathan.
The other guy. My other half. Oh, so sweet. Okay, so every time I edit a podcast, one of the episodes, I listen to it at least 3 times, passing through and editing and stuff.
Yeah.
And then at least once at the final, most of the time it's 2 anyway. Or we have an interview and it takes me 5 to 6 times of listening through it all the way. So
yeah.
I should have all of these things memorized, but I don't. However, I did notice a few things with the last episode that I wanted to go over, because I noticed that there was one part where you and we were talking about completely different things, I think. and I didn't pick up on it until I listened to it outside of the immediate moment, you know. So I want to revisit that, but first of all, correction. At some point we read My Baby Blessing, right? And I said my mom had brought in the recorder,
like
a tape recorder or something. It wasn't her. It was my grandmother who knows shorthand. She actually wrote it down. And then my mom got a copy of it later. I know this from my uncle. My grandma just recently passed away. So he found that record in her journal and sent it forward to me.
Oh, okay.
And I remember my mom telling me something about shorthand or a tape recorder, and I thought she meant herself, and I knew she didn't really know shorthand well enough anymore. So I made assumptions, and that assumption was completely wrong.
Oh, okay.
So as my grandmother, there were no rules being broken, if it was a rule at all anyway. But so there's that. I had to clear my mom's name.
Gotcha. The highest crime she's ever committed.
I know. Seriously. Which she was accused of falsely accused of.
By her own daughter.
I know.
Betrayal. It's betrayal
Absolutely.
most foul on your part.
Most foul. I did notice, first of all, before we move on to the the points that I noticed, I am going to say that I noticed too, I talk super fast. And my mind moves faster than that. So I've noticed that, like, I'll start a sentence, and in the middle of the sentence, I know where my head goes, and it goes somewhere like this. That's not important information. Continue on with the rest of the important sentence. We don't want to bore or make this longer than it needs to be. So I'll be like, so we went to the N.K. Whitney store, and at the N.K. Whitney store, blah, 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 it happened this way, you know, instead of describing what I was originally saying.
Yeah.
So my goal is to maybe take it a bit slower, and I can go ahead and include that information. Don't stop in the middle and edit before I get to the computer. You know, like censor myself. I'm just going to say full sentences. I'm going to try my best to say full sentences.
I need to try and have a point every time I speak, and you need to allow it. Yeah, just experience getting to your point.
Yeah, I am.
Instead of like arriving at it.
Yeah, I'm good at that. Our daughter keeps asking at me, "Why do we need to hurry?" And I stop and I realize, no idea.
Because someone else told us we need to hurry.
Yeah, we need to rush. In America, we rush. Okay, so here's where I think... Let me tell you what I thought you were saying. So this is the part where I'm talking about, was when I kept saying, if you remember this, I don't think I was saying something to the effect of you can't understand unless you were there. And you kept saying, no, I understand. You were talking about the manipulation of the church. Oh, you said you can't be charitable to this stuff. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, no, okay. I mean, yeah, I'm not capable of being charitable towards a church. I totally can understand, like, your point of view, simply because of the fact that, like, I mean, that was my entire religious experience, was like kind of being made to feel like ashamed of myself and embarrassed about who I was. And I wasn't born into this. Like, I got sort of just pulled into it socially, and then I just all of a sudden it's just, you know, outside of the social aspect, which is the only thing I really liked about it, the only reason I went to church, I felt obligated in this sort of moralistic way and was made to feel, you know, just bad about a lot of different things, or embarrassed about a lot of different things, even from friends, like, you know, just kind of like shaming me into, you know, even doing things like cutting my hair. Like, I had long hair when, you know, for a long time when I was, you know, 13, 14, 15, 16, in that range, somewhere in there. I get a small version of it, is what I want to say.
Right, and that's the point, is that you were talking about that. I was talking about something completely different. I was not talking about the manipulation or the feelings that I got. I know that you can relate to that. You even said, you know, manipulation of like the parenting and things like that. So what I was meaning to say, my notes here, because I had to write them out, say that you, without having been in the culture of Mormonism, without having been there, like, for example, the lingo, like when you try to make Rush Mormon Limbaugh or whatever it was, you were trying
I knew that was a fool's errand in the first place. I was hoping there was some like term I didn't know that would fit really well. Yeah,
and I came up with one, and then he was like,
it just didn't click.
It wasn't, because he couldn't get the history behind it.
It's gotta be
the culture behind it.
I understand what you're saying there, like that, and I don't get that part.
Right. But also the state of mind that Mormons had, the absolute only full truth behind the universe and everyone's life, my life, everybody's. I don't feel like you can understand that center of, like, just, how do I say this? Like, it just being completely, like, saturated and submersed in, like, into that. I would not have cared, and I didn't for a long time after I stopped going to church, if the church ever took advantage of me. I just didn't care about that. If I'd have seen it from the beginning, I still would have been a part of the church willingly, which is what I think you can't understand.
No, you're right. I don't. Yeah. I don't understand it.
The thing of all I know was what made...
What I understand is that right there, like, that's the result of, like, deep conditioning, deep victimization. It's cult brainwashing. I mean, it is. Right. It just straight up is. Yeah. Like the FLDS church is just a microcosm of that. And you met that girl.
I did.
Yeah, and you know what she went through.
From the Netflix
Keep sweet, pray and obey.
Yeah, that one.
I can't remember the girl's name, but you met her in
she
therapy.
She was my partner in a huge group therapy. She was my partner in that, and I got to know her a little bit. I mean, she told me about all that stuff, and then so I was there to see the beginning effects of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like that's a glance at like how much deeper that can go, but it's the same thing, and it's not just Mormonism, it's all religions. It creates the whole universe for a person.
Yeah,
like it's the same. It's really what it is a religion is a way for a person who has continued into adulthood and now their parents are no longer God. for them to continue having a godlike parent who builds the world and is always there to hold their hand across the street.
Provide everything.
Yeah, it's the ultimate safety net. That's a concept that it was a big thing for me before I ever became a dad, is that it was that idea, is that I don't think I'm ready to build the world for someone, to make the world for someone. I got that, in my teens. This is an idea that I really, really thoroughly understood. And eventually I came to understand, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this, I think. At some point, I've had, my own experiences, and everybody has their own experiences, but at some point I just feel like it is kind of a natural thing that a person should be able to look and see their parents as just people, just like me, just at a different stage of their life. They're not godlike, they're not omnipotent, and they were holding your hand walking across the street while terrified.
Right.
They didn't have the hand to hold on to lead them anymore. That's, I really do think, kind of the core of why people stick with religion is the absolute terror of being without that bigger hand to lead them across the street. Because it is scary. It really is. Every day of my life is frightening because I'm the one building the world for these kids, and there's not anyone else,
to teach you how to do it anymore.
No, it's all kind of on me just to create this from whole cloth. I can take what I remember and about being a kid and apply it to now, but it's scary. It is scary, but I would rather do that honestly. I would rather do that just as me than to twist me into some fantasy version of myself in the name of appeasing some system of belief and getting it involved in the building of the world for my kids. I just don't like any of it. It's not natural. It's really not. It's, in all honesty, it is the same thing as if you taught your kids from day one, from the day of their birth, that the Lord of the Rings was doctrine. That there were elves and dwarves and, a magic scary guy in a suit of armor.
Well, so that's another tangent of manipulation, I think. And that's the part you can understand. We're going, that's why I say you could only truly empathize or even sympathize if you were as deep into it.
Yeah, you're right.
And, okay, so let me just explain myself then. So I know that I defend, when like you said, I just get defensive toward the church, about the church or something, and I start to explain away why I believed what I did. And
that's never, I want to clarify, that is never what I'm on the attack about.
No, I know.
What you believed. I'm always on the attack of the existence of this organization that is taking advantage of people like you. Yeah.
And it's at that point where I kind of bring out the internal clause, kind of, in that it's still a big part of me, who I was.
Yeah.
So just kind of try to defend. I know you're not attacking me, but I take it a little bit personally.
No,
just because, and I don't mean
get that.
to. Yeah. The reason behind the loyalty and my defending them, and possibly why I still can't completely let it go, despite my feelings of anger and betrayal and recognition of this manipulation and everything, was because of Jesus Christ. I not only literally worshipped him in the religious sense of the word, but he was my heart's everything. And I worshipped him personally inside me. We were talking about how the church brings Jesus Christ into pretty much everything. You hear a song, you're like, oh, that's so like Jesus and so spiritual and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so then because to me, I had been given this idea and I understand that now. But he gave me my family, my way to stay with them forever that nobody else had. He gave me a way to see everybody I love, human and animal, after we died here. Like, this is all because of Jesus Christ. He even helped me, like, I get why people are like, oh, thank God because of this talent. In that, like, if I moved my feet to work on this talent, he would magnify that and help me get better at it. That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
And so because he was such a huge, like, literal hero to me, in the Audrey Hepburn sense of the word, as in, like, alive, somebody I could actually meet any given day of the week if I was faithful enough, which is another point of manipulation. But the church gave me that relationship with him, and that, I think, is why I tend to defend when really, like, I don't hold any current respect for that. I just hold the memories.
It's not just that, though. Like, the truth of the matter is that it's not really the idea of Jesus, like a man, in a robe with a beard, like, just kind of being good to everybody all the time. It's not that is really at the core of your attachment to it. The core of your attachment to it is the desire to be good and nurturing, to be a light, to be a source of warmth, that you aspire to and admire people, or the idea of an individual who is an anchor, who can be relied upon, in a person's weakest moments, who can inspire others to do incredible things. Like, what you're talking about is that you gravitate towards just this ultimate perfect idea of goodness, of love and compassion and understanding and giving. And the face that you've attached to that is Jesus. I'm not joking. This is going to sound like a joke, and I'm not being smarmy about this. For me, that's literally Superman. Like, right, I'm not even kidding. Like, it's the same thing. Like, that's the face I attach to the idea of like idyllic goodness, heroism, generosity, giving, nurturing, those kinds of things. That's what you gravitate towards. Anything else is just branding. I mean, it really is.
But yeah. So for, like, taking that Superman thing, that you can't ever actually meet him.
Yeah.
That you've always known that. He was always a comic book hero.
As a kid, I might have for a little while believed otherwise, but yeah, right. No, as an adult, no.
I absolutely did as an adult, that I could actually, that he was a physical man that I could see and meet, even though, like, Audrey Hepburn was different because she had passed on. There's no way you can meet somebody like that now. I mean, she's gone.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ broke the bonds of death, and I could have seen him. I could have, and I felt, honestly, that I was going to before I died, personally, not through, like there was a talk from a church, somebody I looked up to in the church. His name was Gene R. Cook. And he gave a talk called Receiving Answers to Prayers or something like that. And in it, he talked about how just normal people could see Jesus Christ. And this became a point of abandonment and betrayal later. But in the moment, like, reading and hearing everything he had to say, we've got men who guide the church who absolutely converse with Jesus Christ on a personal face-to-face level in the temple, constantly, consistently receiving revelation and lessons from him. That's what I grew up learning. And I truly believed that I could do that. Not only if I was faithful, I felt like I was a good enough person. I really did. That if I could just have faith in the fact that I could see him, that before I died, I would see him I honestly pictured my husband and I seeing him together. I'm sorry, we're not going to. Hate to break it to you.
I hate to break it to you. It has nothing to do with me.
Oh, I know.
Like, that's not.
I know I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that at all. I was just saying, like, sorry, he's Superman. He doesn't exist. But that talk verified what I already felt and validated all of it.
Yeah.
That was why I felt so betrayed, was because when I came to the conclusion on my own that wasn't going to happen because it's not a thing, he went out of his way to tell me that, in fact, in person too, like he was over my mission. He's like the regional, he was not my mission president. He was above the mission presidents, over several of them in the area. He came to our mission once and was talking to us, and I asked him that question because I'd heard his talk. I believed it anyway, and like the Santa Claus magic powder thing, I truly, believed it. And so I raised my hand and I was like, hey, what are the odds of somebody as simple as me seeing Jesus Christ before I die? And I heard one of my zone leaders ahead of me, he's like, never. He kind of under his breath. And but Elder Cook said, absolutely 100% possible. And then he went into explaining why, like, because the role of the prophet is to lead the people of the church to be worthy enough to see him, help them get to that point. And I knew that I was a good person. I knew I'd been trying. I just knew I was never going to be bad enough to not be able to see Jesus. I just had to wait and keep having faith. And he told me that. And I, again, believed every word he said because it fit what I was hoping for. So that was my point of betrayal, was when I realized that he had gone out of his way twice. Once in the talk to however many people are going to listen. You don't have to bring it up. You don't have to bring up that you can one day see Jesus Christ. Just skirt around it or something. And then right to my face, you can see Jesus Christ right now before you die. Out of your way to lie right to my face. Cold, hard, and take that away. That's fine. I needed it. I needed to realize there was no reason to do that.
That it's all built on lies.
Yeah. It's not possible to see Jesus Christ. Whether he lived as a man or he was just a story, he was only a man.
They're not even good at lying. They're not. They, like, all of it is so easily disprovable, or they're the best that these guys have is practiced rhetoric that they memorize or that they just kind of internalize to respond to any argument. And upon first listening to it, it sounds real good.
Yeah.
But it's all just marketing lines. None of it holds up under any degree of scrutiny. And they won't allow scrutiny beyond a certain degree.
Right.
Or otherwise you get excommunicated.
That's true. That's true. Even asking the questions like the CES letter, just asking questions.
Yeah.
And he got excommunicated for it.
Yeah. That's all the evidence you need. So no, you're right. I'm never going to be able to understand the depth of, your immersion in the Mormon Church. I'm never going to get it. I'm never going to understand it. I feel like there are things that I learn every time we have these conversations that I didn't realize before, that or assumptions that I've made that I didn't realize I was making until hearing stuff like this. The entire time you were telling that story, I wanted to leap out of my skin, and because I knew where it was going. It was going. I mean, the ultimate destination was you were being lied to. You were being lied to your face. And I just wanted to commit acts of violence against an old man for doing that to you. And I just, that's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know how to process things like, because I don't get it from your perspective. I can't get it from that perspective, but I can get it from an outsider's perspective, in that I'm looking at you and you're a person who was taken advantage of your entire life and lied to, and trained and conditioned into making excuses for and defending your abusers. And that happens. That's a thing that just happens in households every day in this country, is exactly that. Oh, he said he'll change. It's
my fault. I did
this. I wasn't listening.
He really does care.
It's this, oh, well, he only does it because he loves me.
Right.
That kind of thing. It's the exact same mentality. It really is. It's sickening. It's really sickening, and I don't know how to deal with it other than just hate. Just hate and anger that I can't just fix it.
Yeah.
But so that's where the spite comes from. That's where the anger comes from.
Yeah.
And I don't have a reason other than you to be specifically spiteful towards the Mormon Church, but it's just the fact that I don't like any of them, but then especially the fact that I have to reckon with the situations that you've gone through as a result of their actions.
Right.
It's just too much for me to deal with without getting angry, without being venomous about it. I apologize.
No.
I never want you to think that I'm never, ever, 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 ever trying to reduce or belittle you, your experiences, anything like that. It's never that. I just don't know how to deal with it any other way than just being furious that it happened to you.
Honestly, still, I do defend my abusers, as you say, as you put it, just as a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah. And just, I hope that you understand that I'm not like trying to beat you to the punch. Like, no.
No, I understand, and I'm doing my best to understand every time the situation. It is frustrating.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to trauma.
So another point that I noticed from last episode was that I said a lot of things based on Mormon points of view that you've never heard before, I'm sure. So let me, first of all, I kept saying Jesus and God were separate to me. Well, they are to everybody. We're not two separate beings, but for me, my goal was not to get back to God.
Yeah, I recall you saying that.
Yeah, that was just an end that I would reach. But Jesus Christ was my focus. And so in that sense, they were super separated. I also mentioned that God had experienced humanity in being human. Have you ever heard of that?
Well, I know there's the whole concept in the LDS Church, the idea that like if you're like if you get to like Mormon level 100 or whatever it is, you become a god or something like that, and then you create your own world or your own universe or something. So the implication then is that our God was once just a dude in some other Mormon church in some other reality.
Yeah, and then before him was his godly father, and before
so
that
it's just
no beginning, no end.
The entirety of spiritual existence is like facing a mirror,
right?
That's across from another mirror, and it's just infinite in both directions. That kind of thing.
They use that imagery of the mirror in the church.
Yeah, they really like the whole idea of mirrors. Mirrors are a big. Well, but there's the whole. I don't know if this is regular, if it's a thing that's used as a mnemonic device, or not mnemonic, but a piece of imagery. Is I just remember hearing one time in a lesson years ago, missionaries talking about how every other religion has a piece of the mirror.
Yeah.
And the LDS Church is the mirror reconstructed.
Right.
And it reflects the full truth.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that and just being like, the arrogance to sit there and say that. Like, it's just unreal.
Yeah.
Like, where's the proof? Just show me anything other than this book the dude read out of a hat.
Yeah, that was another thing was on my mission. They said, use this imagery, like as far as authorization to baptize, because we had the priesthood, we were the ones authorized to have a baptism that would actually matter and last through time and get you back to God. just us. Like, imagine if a fireman tried to pull you over for speeding. He doesn't have the authority to give you a ticket or even to pull you over in the first place. Only the cop does. We're kind of like the cop. And I was like, wait, whoa. Wait a minute. Who? Like, that was on my mission, and it sparked a little question of like,
it's not just Mormons that do it, to be clear. It's not. I mean, even the non-denominational church that totally like, oh yeah, hey, you know, we're non-denominational. We don't judge. There's still judgment being levied at all kinds of different versions of the Protestant faith, at Catholicism, Judaism, and Islam and whatnot. You would still get that stuff.
Yeah,
like
in any religion, you get that.
Yeah. I don't understand the idea of sitting there saying, hey, my thing I can't prove is more valid than your thing you can't prove.
I know.
It holds no more argumentative weight than arguing about what comic book characters could beat each other up. It is exactly as valuable as that kind of debate.
Yeah.
And it's not nearly as entertaining, and it's infinitely more harmful because it inspires acts of real-world violence against people and separations between people, and just prejudice, and it's ugly. It's ugly, and there's no point. It doesn't do anything to strengthen anyone. It does nothing. It does absolutely nothing to not just circumvent, but solve the problem of, if God is all powerful, he can't be all good. If God is all good, he can't be all powerful. I mean, Jesus, and this is something that modern day Christians miss constantly. It's not about Jesus being a perfect guy. It's about Jesus being an ideal for human behavior. Right. The idea that you should always be seeking to help those around you, to build them up, to strengthen the people around you, to save whoever you can, to bear a cross. That's literally what it means. That's what he's about, is that being a hero means bearing the weight on your shoulders that others can't, that you maybe barely can, and it needs to be borne. Yeah. That's what it means. It doesn't mean being Mr. Shiny Teeth Perfect Pants who flies in and saves everybody and nobody's ever sad. Yeah. That's not what Jesus is. That's not what Jesus is not about nobody ever being sad. Right. Jesus is about people being sad and him reaching out to as many of them as he can. Given whatever limitations, to help. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what the example is. Yeah. And you'll have modern day Christians who sit there and they extol this concept of Jesus that no, he was literally a perfect human being. And that he never sinned, he never did anything wrong. He was perfect, and that's why he was the Son of God, and that's why he had to die on the cross. That's the kind of crap you hear. And then at the same time, they'll invoke the name of Jesus at the same time they're like defending Kyle Rittenhouse,
who is
the kid from Wisconsin who shot protesters and got away with murder. Or they'll be arguing, in favor of or in defense of, of January 6th or whatever the case may be. An undeniably violent event. But at the same time invoking the name of Jesus in the midst of all this. Yeah. And it just completely missing the point. Yeah. It's literally not ever about that. He's not ever about that. That's not the lesson. The lesson is every single human being you look at, you should see as an individual, and you should be charitable. Yeah. That's what it boils down to, is that you give everyone a chance. You help. You heal. You don't do this hateful, mindless destruction. Yeah. So is this just like an errata episode?
Yeah.
We're just going back and oops, we made an oopsie. Let's do some corrections.
Yeah. Or explanation.
That's fine. I actually think that's not a bad idea. Yeah. Just every once in a while we, do an episode where we're like, hey, upon further reflection, we fucked up in that last episode, and
I like it. Yeah. So, after so many attempts at wrapping this up, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. please like us wherever you're listening to us.
Or subscribe to us.
Subscribe is even better because then you can keep on top of things. And we are going to start releasing, not immediately, but soon, journal entry readings. I have in my possession and my history a daily journal entry
from the age of
13. Yes, 13 to 22. Yeah.
Easily the least dramatic period of any human being's life. Really dry and boring. There's nothing dramatic or like ridiculous going on.
Especially personalities developing into really dramatic kind of personalities.
Yeah, like every little thing that comes up isn't a world ending.
I failed my math test.
Yeah.
Oh well. No, it's absolutely humiliating for me to do.
Basically, if you really enjoy like premium level cringe,
this will do it for you.
Yeah.
It will. So let's work on getting those numbers up so that we can afford to put up a subscription for you. Yes, this is so awful. This is a terrible idea. We're gonna go through it though. Through with it.
Do we want to tease the other idea we had though for
what was the other idea?
For kind of more regular content? There's a large catalog of digitally available Mormon cinema.
Oh, that's right.
This is a form of filmmaking that I have been just grimly fascinated by
unfortunately.
For half of my life at this point. I didn't know it existed until I moved to Utah, and that was half of my life ago. And I've always been so fascinated by it. And
like the return, the RM, Singles Ward, all this. These movies made by Mormons.
I've seen the one. I've just seen Singles Ward, which was delightful.
Oh gosh,
so we are going to, in the near future, going to be recording that stuff on video, our reactions to watching these amazing pieces of Utah-made cinema, and me cackling wildly.
And me hanging my head in embarrassing shame wildly.
So you've got that to look forward to. It's I'm so excited. All right.
So
well, that wraps it up for this episode.
Yeah. Have a good evening, everybody. Thanks for listening to us. Beyond a Doubt podcast.
See ya.